There's no one here but you and I. This neon town is yours and mine. And I said, hey, can we stayed up through the dead of night, letting me watch the world get alive. Hey, can we sunlight, freedom in your eyes. Please don't leave now.
A real clockwork soldier.
Generation Orange in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yo. You're supposed to give me more of a heads up than, hey, it's showtime. Well, I'm got to be looking at my messages to get the message, right? That's okay. At least all I was doing was bobbing my head. You know, it's all good. It's all good. All right. So we are live, right? I'm trying to gather that because it was kind of a really weird intro from you. Thanks, by the way. All right. Edson's eating food, apparently. Edson is not good enough for you guys. That's what has come to be.
Yes, we're live.
So guys, it has been a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, last week I had work. I actually found myself in lovely Wichita Falls for what actually turned out to be 3 days, not even just 2 days. I thought I was coming back Wednesday afternoon after going up on Tuesday morning. I caught a red eye, by the way, at 1:30 in the morning on Tuesday morning. And I was coming back, supposed to be back Tuesday night or Wednesday night at Wednesday afternoon at like 6 or 7 o'clock. And so I'd have been back around 9. Copyright infringement. What did I miss? Edson, what do you put up on the stream? Am I muted? Because that's even better. Guessing I'm not, since people are still talking. I don't know. We'll see. Edson might have failed. That's kind of the Edson thing to do, right? Anyways. Well, I think I'm more concerned that they can't hear me. No, I know. I've got the video up. I just don't have any audio to the video. So look, guys, Saturday was a match that happened. It definitely happened. Wednesday also happened, though, and we need to give our team credit for going on the road in Toronto and winning a match in Toronto and looking pretty damn good in the process. That wasn't Wednesday. Sorry, that was last Saturday, the Saturday before last. And then coming back and playing Club America, and then coming and staying and playing. Okay, I just want to make sure. You're not wrong, Santos. You're not wrong. And then playing Seattle on Saturday. And to be fair, I thought our team actually played, for the most part, played a pretty good match in the first half. That second half was as underwhelming a second half as we've seen almost this entire season. And it was only exacerbated by bringing, and Edson's going to hate me saying this, but it was only made worse by bringing Kevin Garcia on the pitch as an outside back to replace AJ. I don't care how tired AJ was. That's not a sub you make at that point. You needed offensive, output, and if the best you're going to be able to do for quote unquote offensive output is Kevin Garcia at outside back, then that's just terrible. And yeah, and our reserve squad, best way to put it, did make a very, very respectable showing against Club America, taking it all the way to penalties. And, that's something to be applauded, although it is a match that, frankly, nobody cared really about other than Liga MX fans and wannabe Liga MX fans. Besides them, nobody really cared about that match whatsoever. Even people here in Houston were kind of like, whatever, why should I care? And frankly, I don't blame them. And then, yeah, I was sick Saturday. So again, and we've talked about this, Edson, I want to point this out. A lot of people are going to make comments about that, oh yeah, Club America draws better than the Dynamo. The Dynamo have to draw their fans over 17 home matches plus all their friendlies. Club America fans here in Houston, guess what? They get one chance to see their team play this season here in Houston. Maybe two if there was another international or another friendly during a tournament or something. But that was really the only time they were going to get to see their team play. It was just like when Tigres played the Dynamo here in Houston. Of course, Tigres was going to sell most of that stadium out. And it all comes down to the fact that Tigres fans here in Houston, or very close to regionally within the Houston area, they get one opportunity during the season to see their team play. Or if they're lucky, it's one opportunity a season. Really, for you guys, it's been, 2 or 3 seasons, that you guys don't get to see your team play here in Houston specifically. So I'm just, okay, Brian, you're special. We know that. But no, there are a few fans that cared about it, but frankly, it wasn't a worthwhile opportunity for the Dynamo to put anything more out than they put out for that Club America match. But I'm kind of tired of hearing this whole, there's more Club America fans than there are Dynamo fans. I think that's an absolute, in Houston, I think that's an absolute farce. Again, I think you're looking at the, you're heartless. I think you're looking at the result of these fans only having one, maybe 2 opportunities a season to see their team play. And so, of course, they're going to go out and watch them. It's kind of like, Bayern versus Real Madrid here in Houston. There were a ton of Real Madrid fans that came to NRG Stadium and, showed up and supported their team. Their team sucked the entire match, but they came and supported them nonetheless. And there was a good turnout for Bayern Munich fans. Now, there are Dynamo fans spattered in there, but again, it's a once in a, blue moon opportunity to see their team play. So they're willing to spend the money. They're willing to, take off work, or they're willing to deal with traffic and parking issues. They're willing to ignore a lot of the stuff that your average Dynamo fan is not going to be willing to necessarily ignore on a match-to-match basis. Because again, at the end of the day, there's 18 chances, 19 chances a season to see the Dynamo play here in Houston. A lot of times against a better opponent, sometimes Club America, sometimes LAFC, whatever. And so I definitely understand why. I think it's highly important that fans that like to tout that line that, there's a lot of soccer support in the city, they need to realize that, yes, there is a lot of soccer support in the city, but those fans that specifically come out for those single matches, it's because it's one of the few matches a season they're actually going to come out for anyways. They really shouldn't necessarily be the target audience for the Dynamo, because those are the types of fans that we already have, the fans that come out every 2 to 3 matches for a match, or every 5 matches for a single match. They have a good time, they enjoy themselves, but they're not there for the match. They're there for the experience, more or less. I need fans that are coming out for the Dynamo at this point. I really do. So I want to go on a rant. This is where Edson gets his 15 minutes to eat, even though I'm probably 10 minutes into the show. I'm only 6. All right, well, here you go, Edson. You're going to get 15 minutes to eat. Exactly, Daniel. And look, I'm not saying that those fans aren't important, and I'm not saying you're not important to the, to the club. My concern, though, is I think our fan base at this point is very heavily those fans right there, where they have lives to live, and 18 matches, 19 matches a season is a large number of matches to try to make it out for. And And so I think it's a lot harder to kind of deal with the moving pieces when you're talking that many matches, and you kind of get this attitude. And I know I've been the same way, where it's like, you know what, I've been to 5 or 6 home matches this season already, especially with the early heavy home match schedule. And now we're kind of that point where there's a home match every once in a while, and I'm kind of like, I'm not feeling well, which I really wasn't Saturday. I hope you guys can hear my congestion, so you know that I'm actually sick. I wasn't feeling well Saturday, so I didn't go. If this had been, a match that I hadn't seen the Dynamo play in the last, 2 months, yeah, I probably would have gone. I would have just toughed it out. But I also didn't want to get other people sick. And Callow, I'm going to get to that here in a minute, because I'm about to hit this rant, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be heavy, and I'm not apologizing for it, because it needs to be said. I'm so at that point where it just needs to be said. But I want to address this first. I am absolutely appreciative of the effort that our guys are putting on out there. There's a lot of fans that like to tout the line that our guys aren't trying their hardest, or our guys are failing, or they're not good enough, or this, that, or the other. And, we put out a reserve squad against Seattle. It wasn't our best 11 by any stretch of the imagination. And so did Seattle. Seattle won that match, again, against our reserves, essentially, by a 1-0 margin, on a goal that, frankly, they didn't deserve, on a lack of a foul call that should have been called, that the only ones who are arguing that's not a foul are Seattle fans, who are green-tinted glass you-know-whats to begin with. But I'm fed up with this mentality that our players aren't good enough, or that our depth isn't good enough, or it mostly was. Yes. I mean, not all of the players, but there were quite a few players. There were a few players that were definitely depth. When you're talking about the attack, yes. Now, defensively, no, but when you're talking about the attack, yes. Thank you for correcting me, Edson. Go back to eating your freaking food. Not a good idea to get me more riled up than I already am. Probably not a smart idea. So before I dive into the rant, which is going to happen, I promise it's coming very soon. Really, really coming very soon. And I'll piggyback off that, Edson, to say that also wasn't all of Seattle's reserves either. They had a bunch of starters in their squad as well. Stefan Fry, last name is Kim. I can't think of his first name. They had a couple other defenders that were their starting defenders as well. Jordan Morris, who is reasonably considered for them a starter. Ladero was in their squad. So it's not like they enrolled on. So it's not like they were trotting out a solid, just straight up reserve team. It was both teams missing players, both teams missing offensive players. And it showed. The match in and of itself was very choppy, frankly, very frustrating, I think, for both sides. And again, it turned on a single call, or a single lack of a call, or a single choice to not make a call. And I loved Wilmer's comments, but I also kind of chuckled at him because I kind of got lost in what he was trying to say. But I just think it's very important to remind people that our depth was as good as Seattle's depth. Our starting 7 or 8 players were as good as Seattle's starting 7 or 8 players. And to act like they weren't frustrates me, because it wasn't like Seattle came in here and dominated the match. We dominated possession. Even if all you look at is just the first half, we dominated possession. If you look at from after when Seattle scored the goal, they changed their formation, they changed their tactics, they went into a defensive shape, which, as we know, never is going to do the Dynamo any help whatsoever in scoring goals, and in creating chances. And it showed. But I just want that to be clear, that our depth is not this terrible depth that is not MLS quality. I'm tired of that argument. I'm tired of that excuse. It holds no water. It holds no validity. In fact, today, I'm going to give Callow and Pat a shout out. They did some work. They did some checking of the numbers in terms of salaries paid for players under the DP threshold for every team in MLS. And they averaged it out. And the average salary being paid by the Dynamo for their depth players, again, for every player, excluding DPs, comes out to $276,000 a year. Most teams, in fact, over 85% of the teams, correct, that might be 80%, 80 to 85% of teams in MLS pay their players other than DPs at an average less than the Dynamo pay theirs. And at the end of the day, these are some of these players we've gotten from other teams. Some of these we've pulled in ourselves. But what that tells me on average is that our players at the depth level should be, realistically speaking, better or at least on par. And in fact, if you look across the trend of MLS, there is less than $100,000 a year separating the top team, the team that pays the most money per on average for their depth players, which happens to be SKC, and the team that pays the least amount of money for their depth players, which happens to be TFC, if I'm not mistaken. And that may be not TFC. It might be another team. Actually, I think it is probably TFC. So you're talking $100,000 average difference per player over the course of the entire roster, excluding DPs. Now, you go, well, if TFC is not paying their depth players very much, that means they're paying their DPs a whole hell of a lot. And you're absolutely right. Remember, they're paying $20-something million, $23 million, I think, in salaries over the entire course of the season. That's $23 million. But on average, they're paying less than $200,000, roughly, give or take. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up so I can give you the exact figure. Again, thank you, Callow. Thank you. They're paying $213,000 on average, $214,000 if you want to round up, for non-DP salaries. That is $60,000 less per player on average, less minus their DPs. Their average DP salary is $5.5 million. Their wins or points per dollar is like 600,000, if I'm not mistaken. Callow or Pat can check that one for me because they did that one separately. But it's ridiculous. And I want to give those two guys credit because when they pulled those numbers up, and I've said it all along, the Dynamo on average paid their depth better than most teams. Now you're probably wondering, now that I've brought this up, well, okay, where did the Dynamo rank in MLS? I told you 80% of teams pay their players less on average, other than DPs, less than the Dynamo. How much do the Dynamo pay? Well, they pay $276,000. I already said that. They are sixth in MLS in how much they pay their depth on average. Again, that's average, so there's a lot of things we could take out of that and a lot of variables to mix in, but it's actually data that we have available, so why not use it? And as Callow noted, $60K is more than the league minimum pay for a single player. So why does that matter at all? Because, and I said this, it matters for a couple of different reasons. Number one, because it shows that the Dynamo are paying players, and they're paying them on average better than most of MLS is making. Number two, it shows that thing that I've been saying for the last year and a half, if you've been watching Generation Orange, is absolutely 100% true, which is outside of designated players in MLS, every team is on par with one another, or the depth is on parity with one another, pay-wise. Now, again, it's a little bit different than, thank you, Pat. Yeah, thus far, the Dynamo have paid $255K per point. LAFC have paid $345K per point. And Toronto have paid $693K and a half per point. So again, the Dynamo are maximizing the money that they're paying. So this whole idea that our depth is not good enough is ridiculous, stupid, and it needs to be tossed out the door. It is dumb. Our depth is plenty good enough. My problem right now, and I'm going to come back to this and I'm going to say it over and over again, and I said it last week, and I'm to the point where I'm done, is Wilmer Cabrera is just not a good enough coach. He's a good enough coach when it comes to when you hand him a set roster with set players in set positions and set formations, and you give him everything he needs. But if he has to try to piece something together, if one of those players has to go out due to injury or national team call-ups or red cards or yellow card accumulation or any other reason for a suspension, the team is going to struggle. Because tactically, and Derek Stowers of Dynamo Theory called this out in his article today. I want you guys to go read it when you get a chance. He called it out today. The Dynamo did not make any changes tactically in the second half. In fact, they played the exact same way they played the first half. And as soon as Seattle came out and changed their tactics and their style of play, that should have been the moment that Wilmer said, oh shit, we got to change our tactics. But instead, he was content to let his guys try to figure it out, and it doesn't work. You have to give the guys something to play with. You have to be a coach. You can't just be a manager. And right now, I feel like all Wilmer is good at doing is managing, not good at coaching. And if he's not going to be a good enough coach, I want to find someone who's a good enough coach. Now, that doesn't mean I expect or want to see Wilmer gone now. Because if we get rid of Wilmer right now, we're not in a position to bring in a better coach or a coach that's going to coach. We're going to have to take time to find them. So what I'm saying is I want to see the Dynamo spend time, and we won't hear about it. They're not going to publicly state anything. But I want the Dynamo front office, specifically Matt Jordan and Nick Kalba and all the guys tied to that, to find a coach that is known for developing youth, a coach that is known for coaching players up, and a coach that's known for maximizing and getting the most out of the players that he has available. Because I'll tell you this, the players that Wilmer's had available consistently this season, whether it's been reserves or otherwise, are better than what they're showing. And how do I know this? Because I look at the start of the season. I look at when Memo was on the pitch against Toronto FC in Toronto on the road. And I know these players are better than the players that we saw on Saturday. I know that this team is better than the team we saw on Saturday. And there's only one excuse that I can come up with. There's only one cause that I can come up with. That's why we're not as good as we should be, why we look not as good as we should be. And that comes down to Wilmer Cabrera. And I'm Darby, I'm going to get to that because we talked about that last show, that there feels like there's this missing component on the Dynamo, and that's the leadership. And I know you wrote about that in your article in MLS Female 2 weeks ago, Darby, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic that it feels like there is this kind of lack of leadership around the team, whether it's in, whether it's at the coaching staff level, the technical staff level, or on the pitch. It just feels like there's something missing there. And again, I pull that back to placing the blame on Wilmer Cabrera. And some people will say, well, Cabrera inherited a shit team. He's not gotten great players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, the players he's had have been good enough to compete. I'm not saying these guys need to go out and dominate every match, but during this summer break, there was no reason they shouldn't have at least drawn a couple of matches. And the fact that this team has consistently over this entire season and and most of last season and the season before that come in the second half of every match, almost to a T, and look like they don't know what they're doing, look like they would rather be anywhere else but on that pitch. That's a coaching problem. That's a coaching issue. These players don't feel the fear of Wilmer in their bones. They don't feel a fear of Wilmer. They don't have any reverence for Wilmer. There's no concern on their part that, you know what, my job is really on the line. At the end of the day, as good as Memo's been, Kyoto's still going to start when he gets back. As good as Elise has been, he's still going to start every match. As much as Tomas has struggled at times, he's still going to start every match. And I think that's a good call out too, Pat. The survey from it was last year's survey from MLS players. Wilmer Cabrera was voted the least liked coach by MLS players. And that's MLS players across the spectrum. That was rookies, veterans, DPs, non-DPs, TAM players, international players, non-international players, etc. And some of those players have played for Wilmer before, not just with the Dynamo, but also with Chivas USA. There's a reason why those players don't want to play for Wilmer, or at least they don't like playing for him specifically. As much as he's called out to be a player's coach, he's not. Somehow somebody gave him that title at some point, but he's not a player's coach because he doesn't reward work in matches. He doesn't even reward work in practice. He has his favorite players for whatever reason, whether it's an Arturo Alvarez or a Tommy Mack or a Luis Gil. He has his favorite players and he's going to play them. Come hell or high water. He's going to play him. Even if it's out of position, he's going to play him. And even though Andrew Wenger was good and was able to make up for it, he was still played it right back. Yes, it was out of necessity, but he was still played it right back. Wilmer, in my opinion, is clueless when it comes to tactics, when it comes to mid-match changes and substitutions. He's lost my belief in him. Completely lost my belief in him. And it's time, not now, at the end of the season, but it's time for the Dynamo to start looking for a replacement. I don't know where that replacement comes from. I would have loved to have had Tab Ramos. I thought he would have been the perfect fit because he's a development-oriented player who would have been able to create and build that pipeline from RGV to Houston. He would have been able to build that pipeline from Brazos Valley Cavalry to the Dynamo. He would have been able to build up the academy to those teams and then to the Dynamo. Instead, we have Wilmer, who continues to create this situation that's an absolute farce about the RGV to Houston dynamic. Pat notes that, and I remember that quote. It was an anonymous quote from one of the former players that said that Wilmer seems to hold grudges and you just can't work over that. The quote is, "I don't think myself and a handful of players saw eye to eye with Cabrera, and in return basically never saw the field. I think maybe he was a grudge holder." So Harry asked the question, if I say he's not good, why have him last the season? Because I don't think the Dynamo are ready in terms of a replacement coach. And if you're not going to have a replacement coach, at least let the guy finish out the season. Use the offseason to find a guy that's going to be able to come in. And you make sure that person who comes in understands what they're inheriting, understands that you believe player-wise you have the potential to be a perennial contender. Now, I'm not saying perennial winner, but perennial contender. And I think that's entirely possible right now, given MLS's landscape in terms of coaching. My biggest concern, though, is I don't know what the Dynamo are doing. And frankly, I don't think we ever will know what they're doing when it comes to coaching. I think that somehow, he's gotten Brenner's approval. And I think Brenner is the one who makes the decision. I don't think Matt Jordan has the power to get rid of Cabrera right now. And we know, those of you in chat know, that the players that Matt Jordan has brought in have actually been really good. Now, not necessarily specifically the depth players, but in general, the quality of players that he's brought in have been better than the quality of players that we had after the Dom regime ended and during the regime that happened after in the Owen Coyle era. And, I saw a quote today, and I want to bring this up too, because I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts on this. There was a quote from somebody talking about some of the struggles that, and I think it was Nashville in the hockey league in the NHL have had with with their general manager, talking about how he's more of he's good at scouting. Sounds like Matt Jordan. But he's not necessarily good at the personnel side of it. And I think when it comes to Matt Jordan, for me personally, I do think Matt Jordan has the personnel side of it down because, frankly, I think a lot of these players like working with Matt Jordan. I think a lot of players respect Matt Jordan because if they didn't, they wouldn't be coming to Houston. They wouldn't be signing on the dotted line to play in Houston. I think if Matt Jordan had a better coach at his availability, I think we could actually see a couple of higher name players potentially come to Houston. Now, not your biggest name players, but I think better players. Because at the end of the day, if I know that Albert Elise and Ramel Kyoto and Mauro Manotas have played for Wilmer Cabrera and they're frustrated, and I guarantee you more of them are frustrated, probably Kyoto. I guarantee you they're frustrated at times. They're gonna tell their players that they play with on the Honduran national team. That's word's going to get around. Players talk with each other.
Looks like we have a call.
Oh, snap.
Welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with? Hello? Hello?
I can't hear anything, Edson. I think you failed.
No, I don't think we're getting anything because of the little thing. Hello? Hold on.
Edson fail.
Hello?
Hashtag blame Edson. Hey, if that was you calling in, call back. Edson's going to fix it right now.
There we
there
go.
it is.
Yep, hello.
This is welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with?
This is Santos.
Hey, what's up, Santos?
I was wondering if it was Santos. It sounded like him.
I mean, it's pouring out there, so my connection kind of cutting back and forth, so that's why the cutting go through the first time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So, how's it going, man? What would you like to discuss today?
I mean, I'm just going to continue on with the whole rant thing that Sean started off with. I remember Saturday, he had asked you the simple question.
Hello?
What was, remember the question, what was his making the Garcia?
Hey, Santos,
And
we're
when
only.
you gave me his answer, I honestly couldn't believe it. I just lost it.
So what he was mentioning right now, guys, was that Santos in the Discord chat had told me after the game, as I was heading down towards the locker room and press conference, he told me to ask Wilmer Cabrera about why he decided to sub AJ De La Garza out for Kevin Garcia when we're losing 1-0. And so when I asked Wilmer Cabrera, obviously I had to shape it so it didn't seem offensive for Wilmer, because we know how he is sometimes about that. I asked him if it was due to some injury by AJ De La Garza, or it was a tactical decision. Basically, he said it was a tactical decision because he felt that Kevin Garcia with fresh legs would have helped out on the attack, and since he was a guy that had a good header quality, that he felt like he could have helped out on the offense. Which I was like, yeah, no. Why? I never saw him inside the box. All the times all he was doing was actually like trying to cross, or actually not even trying to cross. He would get the ball and instead of crossing, would try to find somebody else.
This just goes back to previously how his tactics, his formations, the laughter, where anybody with the right mind, Seattle, I would have off the bat once the goal went in and once it was going to be sent. And I knew that it was going to sit back and take in all the pressure.
Yeah.
After the one win in the 2017 season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, 7 times. Every time they stopped will because they had to shake them to literally sit back, take heat, and play from there and counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that, and I was just like, well, I already told you it's over. We would have lost. I knew it too. I'm guessing the only way you would beat them is through the air. I will give Wilmer this. He did try to change it from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-4-2. Way into that. And then the substitution for the defender when Seattle had already heard their substitution. Man, maybe put another attack instead of subbing AJ off. That was, for me, the final nail in the coffin. I already kind of knew what was going on. And not only that, his first substitution and subbing Memo off kind of threw me in, and leaving Tommy Mack to linger out there even longer was even more of a frustration. Because if you want to cross it in, you keep.
Yeah, you got to keep Mames inside. I mean, I don't think he was. I mean, I don't think he was that tired that you needed to sub him off, that early like he did. And obviously, like Tommy Mack, wasn't really doing much for this team at all. But
and then the last substitution, Benya should have been first. then we go from there. No, it has been, as Sean had mentioned, and he's right. Like once shit hits the fan, it's over. He can't manage from there. He doesn't. Eventually, something will work, and that kind of team. This team in the first half played well. Did what, and I kind of okay. First good happened again, and no, sure enough, Seattle had 2 dangerous chances, and they buried one.
One of the biggest things that kind of irks me about Wilmer Cabrera is his inability to accept that he made a mistake. If it's not the players, it's the referees, but somebody else is the culprit of why the Dynamo did not achieve the results. I mean,
that's what I'm going to go back to with the goal we conceded.
I mean,
it's one of those things, kind of where I thought the ref could have seen it as AJ on Morris and Morris shrugging him off. That I saw, but again, why with that? This first time it happened with Figueroa, Lodiero had a literal one-on-one chance that he passed off. He got bailed on. The second time, we weren't going to get that chance to be freed, and that just goes back to how they do things in training and why are they lowering themselves? And they know that goes wrong. You don't have any chance. You don't have any chance to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And again, at Wilmer at this point, I've been wanting to keep Wilmer, but watching his tactics game in, game out, first half is Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. It's too much now. It's got us to the point where they know how to play us home. They know how to beat us away. Even in Toronto, the first half we came on fire. The second half we get the early goal, and then why are we bunkering through? I don't know, because they're already a weak team. You give them the advantage. They score one. We almost got scored again. And for Toronto, it's just one of those things that you don't let the gas end until you know for sure it's over. And with MLS being the way it is, offensive oriented, it's almost never over.
Sean?
Holding a lead is as detrimental as it is trying to bunker it, unless you're someone like Seattle where you have the players and the manager that can hold that system. Other than that, go for the throat, end the game, score more.
No, I mean, I obviously, Santos, I agree with you. You know that at this point. I mean, you know, I gave Wilmer, I said I wanted to give him a half a season, and I feel like at this point, obviously, we're at the half season mark. And what I've seen in this half season has been no different than what I've seen in previous seasons. We started off hot, which was different, but we tapered off as soon as we ran into injuries or national team call-ups. Wilmer's inability, and even then we struggled in second halves. It wasn't like we were dominating teams in the second halves. We were just kind of just holding on to leads more or less going into second halves. I think my real problem with Wilmer is, you know, like I said, there's two kind of things there. One, it's the lack of adjustments, whether it's match over match or in match adjustments. I'm not seeing them consistently enough. And if he does them, they feel like they're out of left field as opposed to sensical changes that make, you know, things that make sense. And then my second thing that I struggle with is I don't see player development happening with Wilmer. I feel like when it comes to Michael Salazar, who honestly is a very good player, I watch him play and he's clueless out there. And it's not his fault. He was fantastic for RGV. He's good enough to play at MLS level. He's good enough to be a depth player, a reserve, a substitute. But he's lost because Wilmer's not really giving him the guidance and direction he needs.
Why? Because he puts him out of position.
He puts him out of position. Not only does he put him out of position, but instead of subbing him for Tommy Mack and, hey, why don't you put Michael Salazar central and let Tomas stay out wide? You'd already started with Tomas out wide. Just leave Tomas out there and let Memo stay out wide. Put Michael Salazar in the middle. Let him play where he's most comfortable playing. Give him an opportunity. But instead, he keeps doing things that don't benefit the player.
No.
And he wants to fall on the excuse that we've had injuries, we've had cards, we've had suspensions, we've had national team call-ups. I'm done with that. Like, if you can't get the most out of your depth, you're not the coach. And that's my problem. It's really, at the end of the day, our depth is good enough. He's not been good enough as a coach. And someone's going to have to take the brunt of this failure at this point, and it's going to have to be Wilmer. Because, again, the quality of players we have, in my opinion, is definitely good enough. I believe these players are good enough to compete, and we've seen them compete. The problem is there's a dip and a drop in quality when other teams change their tactics to deal with the Dynamo approach.
Sometimes I even feel that last Wednesday's match happened. It happened even with Wilmer at the helm rather than because of Wilmer.
You know, and there's a third thing too, and Kyler brought it up, and I'm glad he brought this up because he and I had talked about this earlier on, probably Monday, maybe even Sunday. Cisco actually had brought this up to me as well. You know, what has happened with our players that they can't go 90 minutes anymore? And look, yes, midweek matches and this, that, and the other. But when was the last time we actually saw all of our starting 11 play 90 minutes and play like they belonged out there for a full 90? We see Elise out there.
I can tell you that answer. We're going back 2017, and I've not seen this Dynamo team play a full 90 since maybe like NYRB 2017 in April. That's the last time I've seen this team play 90 at all.
I would go so far as to say maybe Tigres in Tigres. You know, maybe against Tigres.
Either that or maybe the Open Cup. That's maybe it. The final. That's pretty much all I can see. Because this team, that's even harder than the away team.
Absolutely, and
at home when the heat advantage should be ours, where our players should be fresh and theirs should be trying to breathe for air, and it looks the opposite for me.
Exactly. We're seeing teams that should be coming in exhausted after midweek matches or you know, end of week matches coming in at midweek, and they look like they're fresh. And then we look like, you know, we were the one playing 3 matches in 7 days, which, you know, yes, we've done that a couple times, but even when we haven't done that, we've looked like the team that has been the exhausted team.
This is all on Wilmer's.
This game was scheduled for 7. That's literal still, the heat's still out there, the sun's still baking. I was baking out in that stand, and I'm sitting there looking at the players from Seattle. They look just fine in Houston at the part of the 45th. I was just like, okay, this is not going to go well.
That's on Wilmer.
I'm just like, how? Where's the fitness? Where's the conditioning coach? Where's all the staff that should be held accountable for this? Cause
exactly. I mean, it's like Sean said. It's like you have other teams that come in and look really good out there. They're able to last 90 minutes in Houston humidity and weather. And you look at Houston, who's supposed to be more used to this kind of weather, you know, having to practice in it day in and day out, live in it. And they're the ones that are getting gassed. They're the ones that are always getting injured and coming back. They come back from injury and then they injure themselves again. This is all on Cabrera's technical staff. That, you know, what is going on with their inability to do their jobs in that regard?
You know, and we talked about this, Edson, you and I, just a year and a half ago when we were talking on Down in the Valley about RGV and the struggle with Gerson at the time. And it was, you know, that Gerson, the players weren't playing well enough. And I made the point to you then, and I'm going to make the point to you again, that it's real easy for us to point and say, well, the players aren't playing good enough. But when you're going to tell me that 11 plus players that are MLS quality players, reserve or otherwise, they're still MLS quality players, aren't good enough to at least compete for a full 90 minutes, that they're not fit enough to compete for a full 90 minutes out there in the heat or otherwise, even on the road. Come on. I'm done. That's on the coach. Point blank, it's on the coach. And anybody who tries to say otherwise, that all the players should be better and should be able to handle it themselves, that's bull honky. And I say that instead of bullshit.
If it was one or two players, then yes, that'd really be on the players' lack of professionalism. But the fact is that almost every player in this squad has had an issue some way or another of fatigue, of fitness, of injury. I mean, and then this is a bigger problem than just a one or two bad apples.
Yeah,
and on the roster.
I just wonder, honestly, because we know how secretive he wants to be when it comes to practices. No media allowed for most of it, and then just a little bit near the end they're allowed back in. I honestly don't know what they do training wise. But not only that, my favorite point that Sean had made was Cabrera's fog, player coach mentality. Honestly, he's lost the team. There's a lot of bad seeds in this team that don't seem to have any model that want to play for him. He's lost it. He's lost a lot of the players. There's some players that'll play for the club itself, but there's others that kind of seem like they're just too distant to be bothered with wanting to play to win for Wilmer. And you're right. There's no more competition, but it used to be that in the first season, if you didn't play well, tough luck, you get subbed out. That Wilmer is gone. And this Wilmer here is complacent with playing the same 11 or having his favorite players play over everything else.
Yeah, las malditas vacas sagradas. The secret cows. This is what that's what this is. I mean, you said it yourself as well, Sean. Arturo Alvarez, Tommy Mack,
Luis
Gil. Like, come on. Like, how many opportunities do you have to give them to understand that there's other players better than him that can play? Or you can...
It's funny. It's funny because, I mean, the only season that he didn't have a favorite player was 2017. Look how far that team went.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, last year, it's last year and this year, it's gotten to the point where I don't know for Wilmer at this point. I mean, it would be nice to see that they let him go at the end of the season, but honestly, I don't see it. I don't see Houston chucking it in unless we come out hard in the majority of our games, which is likely because after this week, I mean, we have that 2-game stretch against the top 4 teams in the East. There, honestly, I could just see a free fall from there.
And my biggest irk from Saturday's match was that that Seattle was hunkering down. You know that no matter what you did, the defense was well positioned to be able to block shots, to be able to intercept passes, you name it, whatever. Yet Wilmer kept on doing the same thing. Open it up and try to find a cross. Open it up, try to find a cross. Open it up, try to find a cross. Like, really? You're not gonna try, I don't know, 1-2 passes or something else? Like, really?
I would have loved to see that Marco and Salazar. I mean, at that point, I thought maybe he was trying to out-header the defense. And, I mean, at that point, they already knew what they were going to do. Block the shots from the distance and then try to close out the wings so that the crosses don't come. That's pretty much the model once they have the lead. You don't need any tape on that. That's pretty much their MO, and Meltzer's been on that team. And yet I sat there looking at Wilmer like, okay, you knew what they were going to do. Why isn't there any change? Why are these changes coming in too late? Why are these changes the wrong changes? It's just a questionable thing because he's been in the league long enough to know the majority of the managers.
Yeah.
And yet it seems that they always get the best of Wilmer regardless.
And you know what? And you know what's funny? Now that I remember, I know because you mentioned about, the player development. Everybody thought that he'd be a good player development coach because he was the coach of the under-17 national team. But where is that player development characteristic that we thought that he had, or that he showed, if he did, to warrant the under 17 job. How long has he been here? How long has he had the RGV pipeline? And yet he hasn't been able to develop RGV players into MLS quality, consistent MLS quality bench. Because he'll use them like one time and then he'll just like throw them in the closet.
And he can't, and he doesn't have the excuse that he doesn't know these players when they're coming to him, because he coached them 2-3 seasons ago at RGV. He could have brought his own players with him, and yet all he's managed to get out of RGV at this point has been Memo, which, hey, credit to him, not probably really wasn't him, and Kevin Garcia. And technically Eric Bird, who's now injured and not going to play for a while.
Isn't he back?
He's back, but he's not going to play.
He played with RGV.
I wonder if he feels that he's in this hot seat to where he can't pull in youth. That's my only reason that I can think that he's not even bothering to play them in.
But he's never played
because he thinks he's under fire. That's my only reasoning on that. Because
he's never played him in history.
Some RGV players in, but he doesn't seem to feel interested in bothering with them.
But
luckily for us, some of our signings have managed. But I mean, other than that,
you say that
there you go. There's not much else.
You say that, Santos, but he's playing Michael Salazar like Michael Salazar is the next thing since sliced bread.
Sliced bread.
So you can't say that he's not playing the players. I just think he's clueless.
I mean,
he doesn't know. He doesn't know when to pick them up from RGV. He doesn't know once he has them what to do with them. He doesn't know when to call it quits when one of them does. You know, when you realize that he isn't ready, and you would put and you would okay, I'll send him back with RGB. No, it's like, okay, I pulled you in early, and you're not doing good with the Dynamo. You know what? You're out. Like, come on. That thing, that what he did, I still can't forgive him for what he did with Charlie. And I know Sean has said many times that it was probably because Charlie isn't quality enough for MLS. But I think the fact that he's been consistently clockwork wherever he's been, like even right now with the Fury, you know, he's constantly at 95. 100% passing accuracy. He's the best. He's the most accurate passer in the USL. Don't tell me that Wilmer Cabrera. Don't tell me that Charlie Ward did not have what it took to have warranted an opportunity with the Houston Dynamo.
I will go back. I mean, you did mention that Salazar has been, but naming anybody else besides that. It's just one of those things that I feel like for him, he in his own mind that he has to win, right? But at the same time, he would be able to transition the talent that we have in RGV and you would think he would know better and to try to leave it to where they could just plop him into the lineup like throwing darts the day before. You would think he would be that kind of manager. No, I don't. Honestly, at this point, I don't think he probably till today. So just hop in. So okay, this is what I do. We'll just play the thing. At this point, for how I feel about it, that's kind of what my for him, because there's not much development. Finding we're not playing them from RGV. The team here has lost. The majority of them have lost the will to bother with him because they know A, I'll either keep my spot, or B, the next guy's going to be so bad that I'm just going to be able to come right back in.
I'm with you, Santos, and I think we're all in agreement that Wilmer's definitely not the coach of the future for the Dynamo. And if he is, we're going to all really hate ourselves down the road. Well, hey, man, thanks for calling in. We do appreciate it. I'm sure we'll get to talk to you again here soon.
Yep. Thank you so much, for not to be rad, because, I mean, I've been advocating for Wilmer to stay, and at this point, it's just gone too far.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Keep on enjoying
And
the show.
you. Mm-hmm.
All right, bro. Take care. Right now, I'm at a point where I can't even rant anymore because
I bet I could
we've
prod you to
ranted-
rant.
because we've ranted so many times about this, and we know there's nothing's gonna change. To me, it seems like Wilmer controls everything. It's
Well, again, I'm gonna counter that. I do think, and like I said, I was willing to give Wilmer a half season this season to see what he could do, and if he wasn't up to what I expected or wanted, then say la vie. But I also can understand the Dynamo approach to this from a front office standpoint, from an ownership standpoint, from a business standpoint, even from a team standpoint. What does sacking Wilmer right now get you? You're not going to bring in the coach that you want to bring in that's going to be your long-term coach. You're going to end up with another half-season coach like another Wade Barrett that may be okay. Maybe some fans like him, some fans don't, whatever. But it's going to be a half season totally lost. At least you could let Wilmer finish out the season. Who knows? Maybe he surprises you. You still have every intent to get rid of him unless the team wins MLS Cup, and then, hey, all bets are off then. But I just think that if you get rid of Wilmer now, you're essentially saying to the fan base, we're definitely in no position to make playoffs. And I think right now you're at least in position to make playoffs. And you have a scapegoat. From a business standpoint, you have a scapegoat. You could pin the blame on Wilmer right now. If you get rid of Wilmer and you tell everybody that this isn't good enough, then everybody's expecting wholesale changes in the offseason. And frankly, this team doesn't need wholesale changes. Right now, the players are good enough. Right now, the talent is good enough. Coaching's not. So getting rid of a coach right now is just not going to be the way forward. It's not going to be a winning, experience unless you have a coach that you're ready to bring in. Like when New England got rid of Matt Reese and brought in Bruce Arena. Look at the changes that's made for them. I just don't know who you bring in.
But it requires Matt Jordan and the technical staff above Wilmer to be proactive.
And you say proactive, but what are they supposed to do? Like, I think that Matt Jordan, honestly, I think if he had his way right now, Wilmer would be out the door. I think Matt Jordan would have no issue with that. I don't think Matt Jordan's a huge Wilmer fan right now. Because he's not seeing the player development that he's anticipating out of RGV. And again, a lot of that falls to Wilmer. We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
As long as we keep Coach Echeverry at RGV, we should hopefully have a good foundation for that part of the pipeline. But it's that bridge from RGV to Dynamo that's the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all on Coach Cabrera right now.
It is. And I'm not sure that, because look, let's be real. Wilmer doesn't play players like Michael Salazar this many matches in a row in a substitute situation unless his hand is forced. Sorry, Matt Friedel, right? That wasn't Matt Reese or Brad Friedel. That wasn't Matt Reese. Thank you, Sergio. Sorry. I blame being sick. Probably not actually being sick, just short-term memory, not as strong as it used to be. But, there are coaches out there. I also don't think the Dynamo are willing to. They just entered into an extension agreement with him, or not an extension agreement, but they've still got years left on his contract. I think at the end of this season, that contract extension is up, and he's,
Isn't it until like 2020?
Yeah, but that's the end of the season, bro. 2020 is next year. Need me to do the math for you?
No.
Yeah, so his contract is up at the end of this season. So that's another reason why I say you just let the guy finish out the season. He's only got a half season left on his contract. You're not going to pay out his release clause. Kenny asked, can we imagine a world where the Dynamo fire Jordan and keep Cabrera? I can imagine it. I just don't want to imagine it because honestly, that would be the absolute worst thing we could do. Cabrera is not a good enough coach. At the end of the day, that's a known quantity. Cabrera is not a good enough coach. We've seen the quality of players that have been brought in. Mauro, Elise, Kyoto, even Tomas is not a bad player. Memo, who technically isn't a Matt Jordan signing, but I digress. Kiki Struna, Minor Figueroa, Adam Lundqvist, by the way, definitely not a Cabrera signing. Kiki Struna, definitely not a Cabrera signing. These are not players that are Cabrera scouted players. I can guarantee you that. Bisama, I bet that's not a Wilmer signing either, to be honest with you. And to be fair, everyone points to Elise being a Wilmer player. The only reason Elise even happened is because Wilmer ran into him in the airport. That's the only reason Elise even happened for Wilmer. So he doesn't even have that to stand on. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't think Brenner is that tied to Cabrera. I just think that Brenner is a smart businessman, and Cabrera has 6 months left on his contract, and his release clause is enough that you go 6 months, we'll let him finish out the contract, see what he can do. We're close enough to that playoff standpoint that at least he can keep it competitive. And frankly, unless you're willing to shell out a bunch of money for a coach that's available right now, your replacement's probably not immediately going to be any better. In the MLS offseason, you at least have an opportunity to spend time to find a new coach. And I get the sense, I get the feeling that might be the case. And yes, Tommy Mack, Marlon Hairston, Arturo Alvarez, Luis Kiel, all of these players were Wilmer chosen players. Granted, he did choose Vicente Sanchez, but I think he honestly got lucky with Vicente. Oh, yeah. And to be fair, Sanchez had good matches, but he also had some blunders of matches too where he was not any good. He just showed up at the right time when he did. That was all it was. So, I mean, it's 4 or 5 players on my hand that I can count that were Wilmer-specific players that he brought in that didn't pan out whatsoever.
So how can we identify which are Wilmer signings and which are Jordan signings?
You just have to know who Wilmer has coached before. That's what it comes down to. Wilmer's coached Tommy Mack before. Tommy Mack played for him with Chivas USA. He didn't coach Marlon Hairston, but he was part of that 2017, that must have been 2013 draft class for MLS that Wilmer highly scouted and was high on. Same thing with Arturo Alvarez, same thing with Luis Gil. All of these are players that either have played for Wilmer or that Wilmer was the high scout. No, he wasn't. No, Vicente Sanchez, the first 3 or 4 matches he played in, not ones he started, but the ones he played in as a sub while he was still getting his feet kind of back under him, he was not great. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. Granted, he had no help around him, but it still matters. It's still important. I guarantee you, Senderos was not a Wilmer signing. Senderos was absolutely a Matt Jordan signing. Our best players have been Matt Jordan players. They haven't been Wilmer players. So don't tell me that Wilmer is the reason we have the talent we have. Don't tell me Matt Jordan's not doing his job and not good enough. At the end of the day, we have the players. We've had great players, in fact. Wilmer's either not gotten the most out of them or he's frankly failed them. I've got nothing left to say on it. I mean, it's freaking Wilmer. I need to see Wilmer go. And I don't care if it's now or at the end of the season. I don't care which. I just need to see it happen. That's what it comes down to. That's why I said, Callo, I agreed with you. I did say that, his early matches, the ones he struggled, were the result of those around him, or I'm going to give him 10 minutes to show what he's got. And at that point, the match was already so far out of hand, it didn't matter.
I don't know. It's extremely, extremely frustrating for everybody. And
it is. And now it's time for Sean's. Oh, go ahead.
And it's like we're just talking to a wall because we know nothing's going to happen.
But we're not. See, that's where you're wrong. This front office is listening. People don't believe this, but the front office is listening. They hear your complaints. They hear what you got to say. Just because you don't immediately see the response or the reaction doesn't mean they're not listening. Proof and concept, proof and point. They went out and signed Bisama. That's a player, whether you realize it or not, that's going to be a long-term Dynamo player. They're playing the long game. That they knee-jerk reactions in the long game are never winning reactions. You have to play the long game. Wilmer Cabrera is not the long game coach, but Matt Jordan certainly right now is the long game general manager. So at the end of the day, they'll make the change of coach in the offseason. We'll end up better for it. It'll be all great. Oh, crap. What did I do? Sorry. I pressed a button on my keyboard and things went awry. But to say they're not listening, I think is just unfair to this front office at this point. You look at some of the changes that are being made. The focus
but I'm
on
not talking about the business side of things. I'm talking about the
It's all business though. It's all business. And look, Brenner, again, it's a smart business decision to not fire Wilmer Cabrera right now. Wilmer Cabrera being fired right now does the team no good at all. Zero good. Who do you have step in? Do you have Davey Arnaud step in for him? You're just at the exact same space you were after the Wilmer Cabrera, after the Owen Coyle firing. And that's not what you want. You don't want another half season of that. Look, Kalos making an absolute a list of things that have been changed because the fans talked about it. Changes in stadium and out of stadium. The changes to the Dynamo Academy, bringing in Paul Holliker and changing the entire culture of the academy system. The changes to marketing and how they're approaching marketing, and a new marketing director. We brought in a new chief revenue officer and a new chief president of operations, whatever the hell his title is. I don't know anymore. You've changed the things that have needed to be changed first and foremost. At the end of the day, would it have done if the Dynamo were fantastic? Would it have changed anything if the marketing still sucked? It's important to address things. It's important to address them. They will in 2020, Daniel. But honestly, looking at the prices across MLS for tickets, they're not that out of whack. People acting like these are astronomical price jumps don't realize that most of the people that are complaining are the same people who've had a price lock for the last 2 or 3 seasons. If you've had a price lock for the last 2 or 3 seasons, I don't know what to tell you, because everyone in MLS is paying more than you anyways. That includes me. Me and Cisco know. Although we're about to save money because we're moving from our seats. Okay, so rant time, because I want to go on this rant too. I am absolutely annoyed. I'm not going to say fed up, but I'm annoyed and disappointed in fans on Twitter that continue to point out the shortcomings of the front office, and then they conclude their statements with, and I'm not going to renew for next season. And I've seen it from the same people 7 or 8 times. It's like, after the first time, don't renew your season tickets and call it a day. I think my issue with that is the fact that they continue on and on about it. And it's like, do you really think that, and I, oh man, I got into it with Hal and a couple other people earlier this week. Not actually, a little bit today too, talking about why it's important to, if you really want the front office to listen to you, it's important to keep your season ticket. And people were like jumping on me about it, saying, well, that's not, why should I keep my season ticket if the entertainment value is not there, if the team's not playing well, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, if you get rid of your season ticket and you don't subsequently come to individual matches and you don't pay money to attend matches, if I'm Brenner, I don't care about you anymore at that point. That's harsh, but it's the reality of business. You are no longer a consumer of my team. All you cared about was winning. That was it. You didn't care about the team. You didn't care about the players. You didn't care about the club. You just cared about winning. You cared about that MLS Cup. And that's
but what happens when the amount of people dropping out? This is probably not going to happen for obvious reasons, but in theory, if the amount of people dropping out was a lot more than the amount of new season ticket holders, wouldn't that make a statement?
It would if it wasn't for the fact that MLS right now attendance has dropped year over year. It would matter if it wasn't for the fact that that's been a common trend decline over the last few seasons anyways. It would matter if it wasn't for the fact that this is common market fluctuations. It would matter if we were talking about more than 80 to 100 people that are complaining about dropping their season tickets. It would matter if they weren't making it up for with the extra 100 that are going to sign up for next season. It would matter if it wasn't for the fact that they're bringing in new supporters groups into the fold for next season that are going to bring in more than that 100 that are going to drop their season tickets. It would matter if they weren't focusing on changing the game day atmosphere first. It would matter if these fans were truly fans to begin with. Again, they're not fans of the club.
I would say that if
they're fans of MLS Cup.
I would say that if they kept quiet and not said anything. I mean, they care enough to be vocal about it.
They don't care about that. It's the same people year over year that have bitched and moaned about the same shit year over year. It's not new arguments. These are not new things being brought into the fold. And look, Daniel's got it figured out. Daniel, I love you so much, man. It's his first year as a season ticket holder. No matter how the team has performed, he says next year he's going to enjoy the hell out of the team no matter what. That's a fan. It doesn't matter how your team is doing. Yes, you can disparage the team. Yes, you can bitch and moan about the team. But dropping your season ticket? No, you've lost it, man. You've lost what is important to this club. You've lost what it means to be a supporter. You've lost what it means to be a fan. You don't drop your season tickets. That's a shallow move from somebody who cares strictly about winning. I bleed for this team, man. I sweat for this team. I lose my voice week after week for this team. You think it matters to me how they do on the pitch week over week? No, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to support these freaking players. I'm going to support this technical staff, even if I disagree with Wilmer. I'm going to support this president. I'm going to support this owner, every owner, including James fucking Harden. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to support the other fans that are in the stand doing the same damn shit with me. I'm going to be the one that goes out there regardless of whether it's rain, snow, sleet, hail. I don't give a damn. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to show up because that's what a fan is. That's what a supporter is. And that I don't care if you're not sitting in the supporter section. If you're still going to matches and your first priority is supporting the team, cheering the team, rooting for the players to succeed, then you are my brother. We talked about this weeks ago. You are my family. That is what is lost right now in this city. That's what's lost in this fan base. There are too many apathetic fans that want to call themselves fans that are content to not support the team, but are sitting there to simply go to the match. They are there for the entertainment, and that's it. And I'm tired of it because this club deserves better. Some people will say, well, if the club deserved better, the owner would spend more money. Bullshit. I'm tired of the arguments. I'm tired of them. This ownership cares. Brenner has cried over how bad this team has played. Brenner wants to see the team succeed. He has limited resources. If this was a club in the Premier League or in the Championship, which might be a better apt comparison, fans don't abandon their team because they're not spending the most money. They still attend the matches. They still go there.
Yeah, but you're talking about a team that's tradition.
So let's start the tradition. Why does it have to be tradition before us? Why can't we be the change? Why can't you be the one that starts the tradition, Edson?
I love that leadway, actually. I wasn't expecting it.
I mean, that's the thing. It's time. We talked about hashtag do our part. We've talked about hashtag read list. We've talked about all the different things this season. We've told you this season is different. And I wasn't kidding. I haven't been kidding. And I haven't been playing around. We haven't been playing around.
Apparently coach has.
Well, but like I said, everything can't change overnight. It takes time. And I know you're frustrated with Wilmer. I know. I understand. Trust me, I get it. I get it, Edson. But give it until the end of the season. I don't think Wilmer's going to be here at the end of the season. I think that's that. And I think you'll, in the long term, be happier if you just can hold on till the end of the season. Calla says, that's preach, Calla. I was at a game during a subtropical storm. You think I won't weather a shitty coach? That's the thing. Look, the performance on the pitch isn't great at times, but it's also fantastic at times. Sure, it's not 100% of the time, but no team in MLS is. Look, Seattle is a fantastic team. And yet they only beat us by a goal on a fluke goal, on a shit goal, on a terrible call. We're a competitive team. That's all I got to say. Some people are going to say, well, look at our schedule, blah, 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 blah. Dude, the schedule fixes itself shortly. We're finally to that point where players are getting rest. We're going to get players back soon, again, fully back. And as long as Elise doesn't lose his fucking mind, we're okay. This team is better than they've shown. They're going to be better than they've shown, and they're going to get better again. We're going to hit our stride again. I promise you that. I'm just telling you, stick it out. Don't be the fan that wants to throw away season tickets because the team's not doing what you want or isn't showing up the way you expect, or they're not spending the way you want. They're not bringing in the player you want. Because then you're idolizing a specific player. You're idolizing a specific method. Support the team regardless. You can bitch and moan about about them all you want, like we do here on the show all the time and like we do on Twitter and Discord chat. Daniel. He gets it, Edson. That right there, he gets it. Supporting during the bad makes the good even better. Listen, it makes this victory sweeter. We suffered through 3 years of the worst Dynamo play I'd seen in since their inception. We got an Open Cup victory in our own house to show for it. And that was the single greatest moment I've experienced as a fan in the Dynamo Stadium. Whether it was Robertson or not. Granted, I didn't see MLS Cup finals there, but, you know, hey, beggars can't be choosers.
God, it reminds me of Tigres back in 2009. Almost being relegated. And look where we're at right now.
Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom to go up. It's true. It really is true. And look, we're not even at rock bottom. Sure, we're in 9th place in the West, but we've got a game in hand on a couple of teams. We've got a team that's good enough to compete, and we know that. There's no question of that. And sure, Cabrera is going to fuck up a few more times this season, and that's fine. He'll get lucky a few times too. At the end of the season, we're going to be on that doorway cusp of making the playoffs one way or the other. We're going to be maybe one match out. We may be one match in. I don't know where it's going to end specifically, but we're going to get very, very close. It's going to be fun to end the season. It's going to be competitive to end the season. And I'm here for it. Because even though we suck at times, even though we've had those matches where it wasn't great, guess what? Winning that match in Toronto, that was everything. Cisco says he's commenting as he's watching, but if we win our last 2 home games, the Dynamo are in 4th, are we still having this discussion?
Yeah, hindsight is 20/20. And
coincidentally, Elise has missed the last 2. And I think that's fair too. Elise has been suspended the extra match. And you know, it shows. It absolutely, or extra matches because he's going to miss next match too. It shows. It definitely shows missing Elise, and then missing Kyoto out being sick. And I do honestly, genuinely think Kyoto was out sick. I know he picked up like the flu or something, essentially a cold, something like I have. And you don't want a player playing through that. Most players aren't Michael Jordan and aren't going to play through that, and they shouldn't because it's not healthy. It's not good. And look, Sergio has a good point too. The Astros were in this same boat not that long ago. Then they went out and they freaking did it right. Yeah, it sucked for a few seasons, but guess what? At the end of that suckage, it was the best thing, and it's currently the best thing. Hell, they're in the race right now for picking up another pitcher. They're going to have the best pitching starting 5 in the league by a hell of a margin. And they did it because they did it right. They built right. They built properly. And I believe this team is capable of doing that. And I believe, like I said, at the end of the season, Wilmer's gone, and we're going to see that. I believe that this front office, this ownership is addressing areas of need. and they've done it in a way that makes a lot of sense, that hasn't completely tanked the team in the process. I think we're at the precipice of something really fantastic. This offseason is going to be amazing. And you're either on board or you're not. And if you've already given up your season ticket because I don't like what I see on the pitch, or I don't like what they did here, or here, say la vie. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I'm sad to see you go, but it's more disappointment that you left. It's not disappointment that you had your reasons, because frankly, I don't agree with you. Look, you got to suffer through the bad times. I mean, we were out at the club together, and no, I'm just kidding. No, actually, you can ask Sergio well, sir, you can ask Sergio. I haven't seen Jeff in here, but you can ask Sergio. I was hanging out with him on Friday night. I was fine, and then I woke up Saturday morning, dude, and I was just, it was bad. And it wasn't drinking related. I was not hungover. It was congestion. But I want you guys not to hop off the train yet. Don't be that fan that cares more about winning than you do the players in the club. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm just as passionate about the club, and I care enough about the club that I don't want to see it suck." No, you don't care about the club at that point. Every MLS club, every team in every league has sucked at some point or another. You want proof? Look at Real Madrid right now.
Oh,
right?
Oh my God.
You want proof? Look at Tigres in 2009. Look, every team suffers. That's part of what makes those amazing moments so amazing. You got to be willing to weather the storms. We're in a storm right now. It's going to clear up at some point eventually, and it's going to be fantastic. It was not drinking related. I only had 2 ciders and Old Chub, which, by the way,
and a couple of tequila shots.
I did not have any shots.
And some vodka.
I wanted to have shots.
And a Long Island. Yeah, let's talk about the whole story here, Sean. Guys, now that we're here, let's address this issue. The first step is admitting you have a problem.
Oh man, we're gonna have to run through the 12-step program for Dynamo fans. The 12-step supporter program.
Yeah, first one's admitting we have a problem,
and we've done that. We've admitted that we have a problem, and his name is Wilmer Cabrera. I've willingly admitted that. But no, I good times are ahead. Good things are ahead. Good things are in motion. We're not that far out from we're at the halfway point of the season. Sure, we're in 9th place, but we're within striking distance of the 4 teams ahead of us or 5 teams ahead of us. The only team that's not even within striking distance is LAFC, and nobody's catching LAFC at this point. And I'm okay with that. Oh, Kyle tried to call in, Edson. You failed. # blame Edson.
It didn't even it's supposed to show me on the screen and
yeah, Cal, call back in. We actually would love for you to call back in, dude. Love to get you back on today. Again, as a reminder, if you missed it in the first hour, we talked about MLS salaries, averages, and things like that. And Cal shared a link in the chat. You can scroll back up if you can't find it right now. With his a link to Imgur with his with the sheet that he and Pat worked on together, and it is really good statistical or numerical information that nobody else has put that together in that way. And it's so cool to see it. It's the one thing that we all enjoy as sports fans in general, forget just soccer, but just sports fans in general. We enjoy talking financials. Financials give us a metric by which we can measure performance and measure players and measure value. We can't do it otherwise.
I don't know.
Edson, I'll say this. The next coach that they get is going to be far better for RGV and far better for the Dynamo.
Welcome to Generation Orange. Callow, is this you? Hello?
It's a Canadian prank call.
Hello?
Did you misplug it in again?
No.
Oh.
Hello? Welcome to Generation Orange. Is this you, Callo?
Well, while Edson's trying to figure out who's on the line and where they went to, I want to throw this out there. It was I saw this tweet, and I think it was while I was in Wichita Falls. It came across my timeline, and I wanted to bring it up with Edson because it was really interesting to me. There was an article that was released by talking about the current USL struggle with USL championship teams, specific to non-MLS USL championship teams and the MLS teams, and how there is this growing movement among the non-MLS teams that they want to push the MLS teams to League One. And it was interesting to me because they pointed out that all of the MLS affiliated or MLS USL franchises in the USL Championship were struggling. And MLS general managers and technical directors and coaches, et cetera, their reasoning behind that is because they're focused more on the development aspect of USL Championship than they are on winning in the USL Championship. Now, stop me, Edson, if this at all sounds familiar to anything you've ever heard me say about the relationship. At the end of the day, their focus is on developing players first and foremost, which means they're okay with not having a winner. Again, marketing matters because RGV fans want a winner, but they're not going to get an outright winner with RGV Toros because they're a minor league team for the Dynamo. Now, they could go independent, but guess what? Contu's not paying those salaries right now. I don't know what happens there. But I'd love to see him go independent so that the Dynamo could finally get one here in Houston because God knows they need one here in Houston. But I just wanted to get your take on that, Edson. Would you rather see RGV right now in League One, or do you want them to stay in the championship, and why or why not?
You always want to see your team at the highest level possible.
Yeah, but they're never going to make it to MLS. I'm just kidding.
That's why I said possible.
I know, it was a joke.
But Sean, Jacob, Cesar, and I discussed it last week or the week before about this specific article that you're talking about, and Harry was actually chimed in the conversation as well about it. And one of the things that we pointed out was, like you said, number one, the marketing for RGV in the first year was, oh, look at this, might be Callo again. Welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with? Hello? Hello? I mean, it was working just fine right now. Hold on.
I like that, Santos.
Hello?
Best plug ever.
Hold on. Hello? Oh, I heard something. Hello?
Is it your phone, Edson?
I don't think it's my phone. It might actually.
Is it your cable? Is it your plug?
Yeah.
Bear with us. Edson's trying to fix things.
Hello?
Hello?
There we go.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi, Dan Callo.
All right. I actually called in because of your second rant. And that's the reason why I wanted to go ahead and make those charts. Because I wanted to prove to people that we don't spend less. I wanted people to see that the coaches, the front office, well, not the coaches, but the front office actually cares. The coaches suck. You know. Hello?
Yeah.
No, we're
yeah,
listening. We're just letting you go. Go for it, Carlo. The microphone.
The floor is
I
yours.
just can't rant anymore.
The floor is yours, my friend.
I don't have anything else to say. Ask me.
He just wanted to call in and agree with me because, that's what Carlo does.
Well,
How much are
to
you
be fair,
paying
you're
him?
agreeing with me.
That's true. You're not wrong there. Cisco makes a good point too. He says it seems to him that a lot of the folks with the cheapest seats are the ones that are complaining. And I think that's actually pretty damn fair. It's people that aren't paying much to be at the matches. It's people that that don't spend a lot during the season. Now there are some out there that they have better seats, whatever, and they're threatening to cancel their season tickets. Like I said, whatever. Look, if you cancel your season ticket, that's on you. That's your choice to make. But if you make the choice, don't expect the Dynamo to suddenly want to kowtow to you because you canceled your ticket.
No, see, and I've argued with people until I'm blue in the face about this. It gets annoying to see people on Twitter talk about how I'm canceling my season tickets, or the same guy on Reddit talking about how he's going to cancel season tickets every year. And I've jokingly said it, but I'm not going to do it because I don't care whether the team performs well. It's my team.
Absolutely. And, we talked about it earlier. It's being a fan means so much more in soccer than I think in a lot of other leagues in the U.S., in MLS specifically, but in soccer in general. Being a fan of a team in soccer, it's like a rite of passage into this fraternity. It is so much more engaging and involved than just show up for a match once a week, cheer your team, and then the rest of the week you're kind of whatever. It's a dedication, it's a commitment. And I mean, yes, you have your fans that are single match fans and your fans that are going to do that. And I for some of them, it's financial. I get that. I don't have a problem with that because they still intend to go to as many matches as they can, which is fine. But I really think it's important that those who have season tickets, if they want to have a voice, don't get rid of your season ticket. Getting rid of your season ticket gets rid of your voice, whether you want to believe it or not. At the end of the day, you become a statistic once you get rid of your season ticket. You become a voice when you get vocal and you actually do it with the front office instead of on Twitter or social media. Cisco asked a question, and actually, Callo, I'm going to pose this question to you too. Do you think the Dynamo cared what Harden thought about the team 2 months ago? Cisco says he's now invested and now he has a voice. Would you agree with that? That now that Harden is invested in the team, he's got more say in what happens? Or is this more of a business move for Harden joining the Dynamo as a owner? Callo, you first.
Hello?
Am I on by myself now?
No. Hello?
Well, hey, Callo, thanks for the call. We're going to let you go because clearly Edson's phone is fucked up.
Seems legit, guys.
It is what it is.
Hello?
No.
Can you hear me? No, he went bye-bye.
Okay. No, it's okay, Callo. We get it. No worries, bro. No worries. So do I think the Dynamo cared previously what Harden thought about the team 2 months ago? I think to some extent, yes, because it wasn't a 1 month move. I think that's been a move that's probably been in the works for 2 to 3 answers now. 2 to 3 answers, 2 to 3 months. Sorry, I was reading Callo's response. But now that he is invested, I think he does have a little bit more of a vocal say in things. With that being said, I don't think he necessarily has a huge voice because he's only a 5% owner, but his voice still matters. We would, but then the video wouldn't be synced up, Callo. That's the only reason we use Zoom. But Edson could have given you the Zoom connection info, so you could have connected that way. But yeah, I mean,
I'm actually thinking of going Discord because I'm trying to save as much money as I can, and it's like $650 a month for the phone. But
you mean for people to jump in the chat to be able to talk?
Well, if they're part of the Dynamo Discord.
Sure. Well, we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah. So Daniel actually brings up something and says, so how does the loyalty pricing for next season work?
So, okay, I want to dive into this, but I think I'm going to hold off. I'm working on right now, actually, and I've been working on it for a couple of weeks. I'm waiting for somebody with the Dynamo who I know to get back with me on this, but I'm working to get Deanna Witter to come on with us for an interview, either this week or the next week or whatever, soon enough. She's going to come on and she's going to talk about loyalty pricing, season ticket price increases, the membership changes, the supporter section changes, all that stuff. I've wrapped it all up in questions that I've already sent them over. The delay is just trying to coordinate a time for Edson and myself and her to be on the phone together to do that, because it probably won't be a live question and answer session because she's got a family and everything, which I totally get. But hopefully I'll have an answer to that to be able to, in terms of when she's coming on, to let you guys know. But it should be soon. I'm hoping next show or two. But we will keep you guys updated on Twitter. So make sure you're following us on Twitter. That's at Gen Orange Radio on Twitter, or on, the Dynamo Discord would be the other way to follow us, really, for updates on what we're doing. Because we don't really have a Facebook or, we do technically have a Facebook, but we don't really post there ever. You post on the Down in the Valley one, just not on Gen Orange one.
Well, you're more in charge of the Gen Orange account. So
I am. Oh, that's news to me. Oh,
on Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. Yeah, I take care of the Twitter one. I thought you meant the Facebook one.
No.
She knows Callow. Cisco says, yeah, he agrees on the tradition call out. He says you can't have a tradition without having someone tried it first. Someone has to start it, and that's my whole point. But to answer your question, Danielle, I'm going to answer it with what I know. Just since you asked the question, I don't want to leave you hanging on that. So the loyalty pricing for next season is specifically based on how many seasons you've been a season ticket holder. So Cisco and I have been a season ticket holder now technically for almost 5 seasons. Going in for next year will be 5. And so we've got the maximum discount that we could possibly get, which is like 35% discount or 30% discount on season tickets. Now, that seems like a huge percent off, but in reality, when you take into account the price freeze that he and I have enjoyed for the last couple of seasons, or really the last 3 seasons, that price freeze plus that percent discount means I'm still going to end up paying more if I kept the same seats for next year. But really, he and I are moving, so it's moving seat location, so it's not going to matter. But theoretically, we would be getting our 35% discount, and we should still get the discount for next season. So, for us, it's a big discount. For you, I think if you're a season ticket holder this year, I think you get a 10% discount on next year, but it may only be, I think it's 10%. I think it's 10, 15, or 25, something like that, and then 30 or 35. I'm not sure the exact numbers. I don't remember, but it's something to that effect. So yeah, you would see a little bit of a discount going to next season. Actually, Callow, I wanted to talk to you about that. We'll do that offline as well. Not about a Gen Orange Discord, but about Discord and how we can leverage it specifically for the show. So, guys, holy crap, we have 24 minutes. Wow, this has been a rant-laden show. We have 24 minutes left. I want you guys to throw out your questions. We tried to do that a little bit last week, but it kind of got lost in the mix because we had a lot going on, or 2 weeks ago.
In the meantime, I'm going to continue on with what I was going to say.
Yep, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off totally.
No worries. So basically, what we kind of analyzed was that RGV at the beginning, like you said, was marketing to be a championship team, but the Dynamo as well kind of built this team to be a championship team. It brought in people with the USL experience, MLS experience, people from outside, from outside the continent as well. You had Zenon Katic. You brought in Ruben Luna with experience with FC Frisco. Brought in Charlie from Stoke City Academy. You bring in Taylor Hunter. Kevin Garcia coming in from Europe. Yes, he did play in Europe. Small team in Europe, but in Europe nonetheless. Bring in George Malky. So you bring in a really competitive, a championship potential team. And the first year ends. Wilmer Cabrera comes to the Houston Dynamo. And ever since Wilmer took the top job, it's just been a case of bringing in diamonds in the rough, if you want to call it that way. And then just bad decisions by the Houston Dynamo and bad timing decisions that have plagued us throughout all these seasons. So you make the call, guys, as to why the sudden change in vision from the Dynamo in regards to RGVFC. Now, to the original question, whether do MLS 2 teams, should they be in League 1? Specifically MLS 2 teams, yes. Because you have teams like Tacoma Defiance, you have teams like Swope Park Rangers that don't really care much about winning a championship. And the reason I didn't say New York Red Bulls 2 is because they've already won a USL championship. But the biggest issue with as well with MLS 2 teams that the league has and other independent clubs and USL have is the horrible attendance by these MLS 2 teams. New York Red Bulls 2, yes, they won a USL championship, but they can barely get more than 450 people to go watch them at their games. And that looks bad for a league that's trying to grow, that's trying to attract, fans, that's trying to attract media or places to pass these games. And when you watch a game where the seats are empty, where there's really bad quality soccer, then people are gonna be put off. And these USL teams, what they want is teams that have the same vision as them. Because if everybody's got a different vision, then the league's not gonna grow anywhere. Because you're gonna have right now, you have some that are pulling that way. Your Phoenix Risings, your Louisville Cities, your Sacramento Republic, etc. They're the ones that are trying to bring in decent players, that are trying to create huge marketing. New Mexico United, they're trying to create a huge following for their teams, for the growth of USL. And then you have Tacoma Defiance, Swope Park, Real Monarchs, that all they care about is development. USL League 1 gives the perfect environment for development because every other team there, yes, at the end they earn a trophy when you win the League 1, but most of those teams, their main focus is to develop. You have FC Tucson, who is the affiliate of Phoenix Rising. You have the Richmond Kickers. You have Forward Madison. There's small little teams that are trying to grow soccer for their little markets, and some that are development. But at the end of the day, they're more similar-minded within each other than in USL Championship. In USL Championship, you got those teams that are trying to dream big. They're trying, you might say they either want to join MLS, and so they're trying their best to be an attractive market to MLS, or they're trying to take away viewers from MLS teams, and others that are just for development. And I forgot about LA Galaxy too. Now, where does this put RGV? Honestly, it puts RGV more closer to MLS 2 teams than with independents. Does it make more sense for RGV to be in the USL League 1? Absolutely. If the Dynamos, that's what they're going to be doing, absolutely. But ownership, I can tell you right now, ownership does not think the same way. They want to be competitive. They want to fight. They want to be competitive in USL Championship. That's why they got this franchise for. And the Dynamo aren't. And that's another thing. there's a whole disparity in vision between RGV front office and Dynamo front office, and it feels like they're playing tug of war with each other rather than both of them pushing together towards the common goal. Somebody's got to give in this fight. But I do not think it should be one way, or either my way or the highway, either Dynamo or front office. But at the end of the day, if neither side are willing to put their differences together towards the common goal, then the best option is to separate their journeys. I'm saying it right now. If they're not, if the Dynamo and RGV and Alonso Cantu's ownership group are not willing to work together, then why stay in this toxic relationship? Just end it and look for other alternatives, because it's pretty obvious that this relationship, the way it's going right now, it's not going to work. I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm purged. I'm free.
That almost sounds exactly like how it should be. Almost. I mean, so Callow asked, sorry to derail your thought process there.
No, I'm ready for another. I'm ready for questions. Bring them up.
Do you think if Cabrera sent Cabezas down to RGV for about a month to rehab, would he have found his way by now?
Absolutely.
Was AJD's recovery pushed too fast? I'm going to leave that for Cisco to answer when he gets to listen to this part of the chat. Was AJ's injury the reason his fitness is slipping late in the season? I would say that's probably not
I think
the case.
To me, it seems like a before and after kind of thing.
I mean, it was a bad injury.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's not necessarily because was he pulled over, because he spent a lot of time in recovery. He spent a couple of games at RGV. Could he have stayed during the weeks at RGV? Definitely. We've talked about it many times. But at the end of the day, he played for maybe like a month or a month and a half, like with RGV, before actually going back with the Houston Dynamo.
Well, we talked about it originally when JDC came back from his first injury, that we all felt he was pushed back too fast, and then re-injured him, essentially immediately when he got back. Mm-hmm. And then, so it's a trend we're seeing. And, it's a combination of players getting injured way too frequently, players not having the match fitness to go a full 90 regularly. And if they do go a full 90, they look completely gassed by the 80th minute. Mm-hmm. Players that aren't able to go match in and match out. You see a difference when you watch a Kiki Struna play or a Minor Figueroa, guys that can go 90. And I think it's their personal training regimen over the team training regimen specifically. Mm-hmm. But again, all these things add up. And if I'm not, humorously enough, it all comes back to the same thing, which is coaching. And if coaching doesn't improve, it doesn't improve. And the system doesn't improve, and everything just everything ends up in this vicious cycle. It's like the circle of suck. It's just focused on the coach.
Big shout out to Santos for those $27 donation. Really appreciate it. So, guys, keep those questions coming in. We've got 13 minutes to go until we make it to 9:00. So going back with this whole RGV thing, and I said it before. I don't remember. I know for sure I said it at Down in the Valley. I don't remember if I said it in Generation Orange. But to me, it seems like Wilmer Cabrera has little trust in the pipeline that he's creating, that he's maintaining, and the lack of maybe trust in Echeverry being able to help him out, get these Dynamo players that are not doing well, in regaining their confidence and regaining their fitness by maintaining them at RGV. I mean, what other explanation can you give that Wilmer Cabrera does do what's kind of obvious? It's kind of common sense, really. And it's surprising that somebody who in the press conferences always lots about, well, I used to be a player, so I know this. Why don't you know how important chemistry is at the game? Did you all of a sudden forget that? You know, I mean, because you were a player. You were an excellent player from what my dad tells me about Wilmer Cabrera when he was with the Colombian national team. So I don't think that he all of a sudden forgot. I mean, what other explanation can you give me? I'm trying to understand here, Sean. Because, like I said, he's always lauding about, well, I used to be a player, so I know that this is true, yada yada yada. Where is that knowledge, that experience that he gained throughout his playing years? Where is that knowledge in being able to put it in his tenure as a manager, where it matters?
You're asking the wrong person, because I don't know. I struggle to see where he's applied his knowledge as his, coming from his time as a player. And, there are players out there who, frankly, just can't become excellent coaches. And it's not to say they didn't have great playing careers or that they didn't have a high football IQ, but it comes down to being able to translate that football IQ from a player perspective to a coach perspective.
Exactly. How many excellent players like Maradona, like Hugo Sanchez, are complete and utter trash when they become managers?
Yeah.
And you have players you have people, that weren't even soccer players or were mediocre soccer players or mid-level soccer players in their career, but are excellent coaches. I mean, don't tell me that Pep Guardiola was a world star athlete or world star soccer player. Don't tell me that Jurgen Klopp was an amazing soccer player.
Let me ask you a question, because this one is going to hit home for you. The struggles with Real Madrid right now, do you place them at the feet of Zinedine Zidane, or do you place them at the feet of Real Madrid's ownership and board for not making necessary transfers?
To me, right now, I'm at a point where I want to say it's Zidane. And it sucks because we've had other coaches and it just seems to be the same thing. But it seems to me that these coaches, including Zidane, are so enamored with putting in great. Now I'm thinking it might actually be Florentino, because you're always playing with Lucas Vasquez, with Marcelo, who are very far away from their optimal level of play. And yet you keep on playing them week in and week out. When you know that you probably have somebody that maybe deserves an opportunity to see if they are better. I mean, you have to make some changes if you're, whether it's cleaning out the locker room, cleaning out the roster or something. But some of these players, I feel like, since they've already won everything, they've won Champions League 3 times, they've won La Liga or whatever, They've won World Cup in some cases. It's like they don't see a challenge in being in Real Madrid anymore, and they're just kind of going with the flow. I mean, just take, for example, this match against Atletico de Madrid. And I mean, no. Hold on. I'm not necessarily in the match. After the match.
Mhm.
Sergio Ramos literally said, he said, we came to this match looking at it as any other practice match. Atletico came into this match looking at it like if it was a final, or there was something worth it. And if you're going to be repping Real Madrid, you have a reputation on the line. Not only your personal reputation, because you assume that if you're in Real Madrid, you're one of the best, if not the best players in the world. But also Real Madrid has that reputation in and of itself. It's like you're always going to be one of the top teams. And you're not gonna let me lie. This match, this scoreline against Atletico, that is so far away from being a Real Madrid description. Yeah, this doesn't describe Real Madrid at all. But it's just been so common for us to wallow in mediocrity. And it seemed like Cristiano Ronaldo was the makeup in this pig for Real Madrid. Because as soon as Cristiano Ronaldo left, this mediocrity of this team just was made just much more obvious. Cristiano Ronaldo pushed himself and in turn pushed everybody else around him. Now that he's gone, who's pushing everybody else? Nobody. Yes, Blues, I am dead inside.
So dead. So dead.
'Cause even Tigres disappointed me this weekend.
So let's move.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's move you to something a little less depressing. So Daniel earlier asked about Vera and why so many people seem to underestimate his impact.
Because he's not a player that attracts eyeballs. Simply as that. He does his job, and a lot of the times, center defensive midfielders is one of the most under the radar positions in soccer, because when you do your job, you don't really see it reflected anywhere, because you don't get scored on, or you don't and stuff like that. The defenders don't have a lot of work to do. They are usually, the center defensive midfielders are not the ones that are making the acrobatic saves, or that slide that kicks the ball out from the goal line. You don't see that. They're usually not involved in plays that catches your eye, but they're the ones doing most of the dirty work of avoiding the team to actually be in those circumstances where you have to go, put all of your weight to try to make that save or something. And they're usually not the ones that are scoring goals either. So that's why a lot of people don't understand or not seeing that how good Vera is, because he's doing the job so decently. He doesn't need to be noticed. If he's not doing his job, then everybody's gonna notice.
I completely agree. He's the bass player in a band. You only notice him and his position when he's not doing well. It's an underrated position in MLS specifically. I think around the world it tends to get a lot more shine. You think of your Busquets,
but even then, who gets all the spotlight?
Your Conte. So you didn't even let me finish, bro. your Contes. No, you're right. I mean, 10s are always going to get more attention because they're the attack. They're the ones scoring the goals, the bangers, etc. But your DMs, I think, tend to actually have a larger impact on the performance of a team overall. Mm-hmm. I think if we didn't have Vera this season, this would be a real shit show. You know, to be totally honest. But hey, it's about that time. We have hit that 9 o'clock mark, roughly, give or take. We got like a minute and a half left or so. I want to, first of all, ask you guys, if you are watching the show, even if it's after the fact of live, do us a favor, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you tweet about us. You hit up on people up on Facebook that you know. Share us out there. Spread the word. We're here for you guys. We're here for anybody who wants to join us and talk. For sure. As you guys notice, we will spend time to even try to get you connected, even if it takes half an hour to do so. But guys, great, fantastic show. Love the interaction. Daniel, thank you for joining us and hanging out and chatting, asking questions.
Welcome.
That's what we appreciate. Yes, and definitely welcome to the family for sure. Welcome to the Gen Orange family. Callow, as always, thanks for calling in. Santos, as always, thanks for calling in. Dave, Cisco, Darby, Brian, Baron, and everybody else who joined us in chat. Thank you for joining us in chat. We appreciate you guys. We thank you guys for hanging out with us for 2 hours each week.
Yeah, and don't forget tomorrow, Down in the Valley.
Jen down in the valley. Yes, Down in the Valley tomorrow. Make sure you guys tune in. Good stuff tomorrow. We didn't even get to talk RGV Express.
It's okay. If they want to learn about RGV, they can come crawling down to us.
Wow. Give yourself more credit than that. You guys are awesome. It's a fun show to watch.
Also, guys, I did upload my first 2 episodes of the FIFA 19 RGVFC career mode.
Definitely go watch that, guys.
And also the compilation of Carlos de Small's 13 goals, which makes him the all-time goal scorer for RGV. So be sure to check those out, but mostly check out those FIFA 19 videos. They're so much fun. They're so much fun to create, and be sure to share it. It's just something different out there that I hope you guys will enjoy.
Edson has a dream of one day becoming a live play-by-play announcer for soccer. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
You ain't wrong, actually.
I know I'm not wrong because we talked about it before, so I know I'm not wrong. But seriously, guys, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Have a great night and a great week. And barring any unforeseen work stuff, we'll be back here again on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central next week.
All right. Have a good night, and we'll see each other next week. Take care.
You wanna turn me off. You wanna flip the switch. I wanna break the lock. I know what makes you tick. We used to be so young and free. Yeah, baby, don't treat me like a machine. I could still be just what you need. No, baby, don't treat me like a machine. Wanna go to